Hi, hey, hello. My name is Janzen. I am a strength and conditioning specialist. If you have clicked on today's video, you are interested in getting started with your calisthenics journey. I have currently been doing calisthenics training for about a year now, so I am still very new, very fresh. So based off of the title of today's video, obviously, this is for beginners. So if you're a beginner, you have come to the right place. I am going to go over some things that I have been implementing for the past year that I have found to be helpful. Also giving you some lessons that I have learned along the way that I wish I learned a lot sooner in the first initial stages of my journey. So we are gonna go over the warm-up. We're also gonna go over the fundamental movements that are gonna allow you to eventually do all the cool, fun-looking stuff that may have inspired you to do calisthenics training. For me, it's like the human flag, doing muscle ups, dragon pistol squats. Those are all things that have motivated me to start this journey. But the biggest thing, the first lesson that I learned, and I think so many people forget about, is the importance of the fundamentals. We're gonna go over the fundamental movements today, and I really encourage you to master these fundamental movements and make them look effortless. The more effortless they are going to look, the easier it is going to get as you advance to those next levels. All right, so first things first, we have got to warm up. I know that nobody likes to warm up, especially if you have been lifting weights for a significant period of time. A lot of people tend to skip their warm-ups, but you have to remember you are using your body to lift yourself, so you want to protect your joints. So I always start off warming up my shoulders, warming up my wrists, regardless of what I am doing. And then if I'm doing any lower body movements, I'll show you guys a little bit later. I'll show you how I warm up my ankles if we're doing any type of lower body movements. So just start off with some like shoulder rolls forward and backwards, bilateral, and then sometimes I'll just do one at a time, just rolling my shoulder forward and rolling it back, rolling it forward, rolling it back. And then I'll just kind of twist my wrist. I'll lock my fingers into place, twist those wrists around, get them nice and warm. And then typically grab onto a band, do some band pull aparts. And typically I'll just do 1 to 2 sets of about like maybe 10 reps or so, but really just get those shoulders nice and warm all the way up and then down like that. Really pretend like you're pinching your shoulder blades together. And then I'll grab a thicker band, or if you have a broomstick or a PVC pipe, you can do some band shoulder passes. So coming back like this, trying to keep your back nice and flat. A lot of times your back wants to compensate and arch. In order for you to do that, make sure you keep your back nice and neutral and it's just your shoulders doing the full range. And the goal with this is to get your grip closer together while doing the same movements. So my shoulder mobility is still not the greatest, but as you get closer together like this, you want to be able, see I can't even go all the way back at that grip. That's okay. It's still a work in progress. I'm only a year into this and it takes time. That's the biggest thing with calisthenics is you have to be patient. But don't skip your mobility. So I do some passes like that. Again, about 10 reps or so. And then we're gonna alternate. Go over like that. And then try to keep your arms as straight as possible. Try to keep your torso from deviating, like it's not going like this or anything like that, right? Try to stay forward. Go over like that. If you do it with a broomstick, it's obviously a little bit more challenging because the band is kind of bending right now, coming closer and further away to compensate for my limitations. Like here, I don't have a broomstick. Oh, I do, but it's not the one you see in the gym. A little more challenging because the band obviously bends to compensate for your limitations, whereas a broomstick doesn't. So it's a little bit more challenging. Again, my shoulder mobility isn't the greatest. And this is why we are doing this. Switch sides. All right. Shoulders are feeling pretty good. Lower body now. So all of these movements are just to open things up, not doing anything static. Save static stretching for the end or on your rest days, but just opening up the hips right here. If we're doing any lower body movements, even if it's just like an upper body day, still like to do some sort of lower body mobility just to warm up. Even right now I'm super stiff, and as I get warmer, I can get closer to the ground with these, back and forth, side to side lunges. Again, just opening up those hips, right? We'll move on to inchworms. So just coming forward, walking down into a plank. Make sure you keep your core nice and tight. It's not dipping or anything. And you're just gonna walk back up, come back down. Maybe about 5 to 10 reps for these. Then we're gonna do some squat and reaches. And come down and squat. Hold your leg open, reach up, trying to keep a vertical line. And I'll come up, come back down, reach all the way up. Feeling pretty good, feeling pretty warm. The last thing, most important thing, is still warming up your wrists. Yes, we did this at the beginning. Your wrists are gonna need more, especially as you build up that strength to eventually do handstands. So I just typically will come down in a quadruped position like this, and I'll walk back and forth on my hands, grab one and then just twist my arm, back and forth, twist my forearm while keeping my wrist down. I'll do a closer angle here, but I scrunch my fingers together and then go back to some walking. I'll turn my wrists out like this, go back and forth a few times. That feels really good. And then turn my wrists sideways, go back and forth. You know, our wrists aren't used to having to hold a large load, right? But if you want to eventually do handstands, building up this strength in your wrists, the mobility, and in your fingers is super important. This was one of the lessons that I wish I learned a lot sooner in my calisthenics journey, because I would have spent more time not only improving my wrist mobility, but prioritizing it way more, building that strength a lot earlier. Then we'll do some push-ups where you kind of push up like that. You can do it the other way too. And then reverse wrist push-ups. Come forward like that. Really allow your wrists to push you up. Don't just shoot up with your hips. I'm really pushing off of the back of my hand here. And then a little bit more walking. Shake it out a little bit. Roll your wrists. They're feeling good, and that's it for the warm-up. Now we'll start off with core training. I wouldn't go too hard on core training in your programming, just because everything that we are doing is going to involve your core, so that strength is naturally going to go up. That there are some important isometric movements that are worth mastering. The first one is hollow bodies. Hollow bodies are going to be very beneficial to help with your handstand progression. So I really encourage you to master the hollow bodies. I'll show you how it looks, and then we will break it down and regress the movement if it feels too difficult. So when we go down into a hollow body, we're going to come down with our hands above our shoulders, legs elevated against the ground, and my chin is tucked in between my arms. So my back is completely flat on the ground, and you just want to hold this while focusing on your breathing. Now when you are doing this, if it feels very difficult and you can't hold it for more than 10 seconds, it is time to just scale it back and regress the movement, which there's nothing wrong with. I definitely couldn't do that in the beginning. So a good way to do this, a good starting point, is to simply have your hands sitting back and elevating your legs. If you can only elevate one leg at a time, that's totally okay. So just elevating one leg at a time. This is another regression for the L-sit, which we'll talk about shortly. But slowly just elevating your legs one at a time is the first goal here. As you find you can hold one leg for more than 10 seconds, try to hold the other leg. As you find you can hold both legs for 10 seconds, see if you can let go of your hands. You might need to bring your legs up a little bit, but see if you can let go of your hands. As you start to do that, you're kind of ready to start to lie down. First way to progress with this movement is holding the legs one at a time for about 10 seconds. Once you feel you can hold them for 10 seconds plus, hold both of them for 10 seconds plus. Next, you might find it's easier, or a good progression from that, to bend your knees in and bring your arms forward. If you can hold that, sitting as upright as you can, for longer than 10 seconds, you're good to go to the next progression. The next progression is where I would still come down, but not elevating your hands over your shoulders. You're gonna come down, bend your knees in, and hold your hands out like this. Again, rule of thumb, 10 seconds plus, start to extend the legs. Once you're able to do that for 10 seconds plus, you're really ready to elevate your arms. Now, if you find that you're still struggling to hold it for 10 seconds plus, but the exercise previous to that feels pretty easy, it feels pretty good, there's no middle ground, then get creative with it a little bit. So a good way to do that for this example, say you can hold this for 10 seconds plus, but coming down like this feels too challenging. Don't be afraid to bring your head down, making sure that your back stays nice and flat, but eventually try to extend your knees. So if you can't bring your head up yet, it's okay to just lift your legs and then worry about lifting your shoulder blades later. Don't rush it, take your time with it. If you have to go back and you are stuck at this variation and you can do like 60 seconds and then the next one feels too challenging, just simply add more time to this. The thing with calisthenics is it's like a video game where eventually the more you do it, you will hit that unlock and you'll go to the next level. So don't allow your perceived lack of progress to hold you back. Keep putting those reps in, keep adding time. It will get easier in time. It will click for your body. You just got to stick to the plan. All right, the next core fundamental movement that we want to take seriously is the L-sit. So this is where the ending point is of the movement, where you're elevated, arms locked out, legs completely straight, and you can hold this for a good 30 seconds. So how can we break that movement down? We're gonna start on the ground and do some compressions. So we want our legs to be completely straight. You may find that you want to work on your mobility. We'll do a stretching video in a future video, but doing movements like this, getting your head closer to your shins, not rushing it, creating that flexibility is going to be very beneficial with L-sits. So something to work on in addition to what we'll talk about right now. With compressions, you want to bring your hands down. The further your hands are in front of you, the more difficult it's going to be. So this is what it's going to look like. If you haven't done L-sits before, that's probably going to be very challenging. So try to be more upright as your starting position. and focus on elevating your legs, both at the same time if you can, and going up and down. As you get maybe 5 to 10 reps and you feel like you are getting stronger with that, is feeling much more efficient, over time, start to reach further forward. As 5 to 10 reps gets easier, come further forward and keep doing those compressions. As that starts to get easier, you can get yourself some parallel bars or even some yoga blocks. That works as well too. I'll show you some hanging variations as well. But the next goal is to be able to hold yourself up. So just tuck your knees and bring yourself up like this. If you can hold that for 10 seconds plus, you are ready to go to the next progression. The most difficult part for L-sits is extending that knee. So as you get more comfortable with holding yourself up, we're going to extend one leg at a time. You can extend them back and forth, or you can try to do some holds. So an example of that, once you're good at holding yourself up, you can extend one leg, come back down, extend the other leg, come back down. Extend one leg, see if you can extend that other leg, extend one leg down, and come back down. It does take some time, so again, just stick to it. So as you get more comfortable with your L-sits, you can move them towards doing hanging L-sits. It's gonna be the same movements for progression, where number one, we just wanna get used to holding ourselves up. So you can do that by raising your legs or just doing some dead hangs like this. As you feel comfortable with holding yourself, bringing both knees up and seeing if you can hold yourself there. Once you feel comfortable with holding yourself for 10 plus seconds, same thing, where you can focus on extending one leg, extending the other leg, alternating back and forth, and then eventually extending both legs. So both knees up, extending one leg, bringing it back down, extending one leg, bringing it back down, extending both legs, and then eventually holding this for 30 plus seconds. And that's it for the L-sits. Next up, we are going to do pulling movements. Obviously, this is for us to be able to do pull-ups, weighted pull-ups, eventually muscle-ups. But again, we need to focus on the fundamentals first and foremost. So if you haven't been able to accomplish your first pull-up yet, no worries, an inverted row is going to be a really great starting point. So if you're able to grab a bar and do inverted rows this way, that's great. If you work out at home, you can do them by holding onto an end table. Some people will make sure they have some heavy chairs and they'll put like a broom or a bar over across the heavy chairs, and they can do inverted rows that way. So with inverted rows, the further away your feet are from you, the more challenging it's gonna be. Make sure you come all the way back down to the bottom, but if you can't get your chest towards the bar, simply bring your feet up towards your bum, elevate yourself, and pull yourself up that way. As you feel like you can do 5 to 10 reps, take a step out ever so slightly and progress that way. Again, as it gets easier, eventually fully extend your legs and you can do inverted rows like that. If you have the ability to, you want to actually have your feet elevated. I don't think I have anything in here that will allow me to do that. One sec. That helps me elevate them. So that way we are a complete straight line. Oh, you know what? It works a little bit. It's going to be more challenging, I can tell you that. And then eventually even bringing your feet even higher. So that way, when I pull myself up, my entire body is parallel to the ground. So that is an excellent starting point for getting your first pull-up. Now, as your inverted rows get better and better, you may be ready to start practicing your first pull-up. Now, if you are doing pull-ups like this, we're not quite there yet. We want to ensure that there is a full range of motion and we're not kicking our legs up in order to get reps. The biggest thing with calisthenics is it's not about how many reps you can do. The quality of your reps matter. So the goal with your first pull-up is to be able, at a dead hang, your legs are completely straight, retract your scapula and pull yourself up where your chin comes over the bar, and you can come back down where your arms again are fully locked out. So we don't want to stop right here and do that and think it's a full rep. Making sure we do a full range of motion is going to be really important. The first thing that I would work on is scapular pull-ups. Now, this is not where you are actually pulling yourself up by flexing your elbows. It's just the first initiation portion of the movement, which is actually the most challenging part and why people struggle with it so much. So this is what scapular pull-ups are going to look like. You're going to come down, make sure you can hold yourself in a good hang position, and then really watch my shoulder blades here. That's 1 rep of a scapular pull-up. The biggest thing with scapular pull-ups that help me is to pretend, like when you're doing a lat pull down, you're kind of pretending like you're breaking the bar in half, right? Kind of rotating your shoulders down, pretending like you're pinching your shoulder blades together. That may seem very easy. It's very challenging, a good starting point. The next 3 variations are great options to help you strengthen your ability to do your pull-ups. Doesn't matter which one you do in which order. I would do all of them or pick your favorite one. So the first one that most people like are banded pull-ups. So we're just gonna loop the band where you do your pull-ups, bring it down and grab it with your foot, grab on with both hands, and then you can put your other foot in or you can leave it out. Doesn't matter. Obviously, if you put the other foot in, it's gonna be more difficult, so make sure you have a good variety of bands available. So we're gonna bring it down. I'm gonna put my second foot in, and we're gonna pull ourselves up. Obviously, it helps quite a bit, but make sure you're doing it properly, where your chest is up high, and you're not collapsing your shoulders forward like this, right? If you're doing that, we're not getting good range, and it's not gonna be pretty on your shoulders. So that's why the scapula pull-ups are super important. So we're gonna retract our shoulder blades, pull ourselves up. Our chest is nice and high, trying to hit the bar at the top with our chest, and our chin is coming over the bar. So that's the first variation. The next one is going to be, I think there's only 2 actually, not 3. Yeah, there's only 2, I apologize, not 3. So the second one are negative pull-ups. The roof's a little high, so make sure it's a little close. So make sure you don't hit your head. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna jump up into the position and slowly come back down. So you're working on that second half of the movement pattern. So I'm gonna grab on, but I'm gonna use the bench and jump up. I'm gonna control myself and slowly come all the way back down to the starting position. Take a rest, grab on, jump up slowly, and come back down. So the first bit, right, the scapular pull-ups, that's you working on the first portion of the movement. The banded pull-ups obviously is the full portion, and the negative pull-ups is the second half of the movement. Next, we are gonna move on to push. So that's primarily gonna be push-ups, handstands, and dip variations. Let's start off with some push-ups. So the biggest thing with push-ups, again, we want to ensure we are doing a full range of motion. So coming down into a plank position like this and bringing ourselves down until our chest touches the ground and pushing ourselves back up. So if we are doing push-ups where we're coming down like this, we're not doing a full range of motion, and we need to regress the movement to prioritize building that strength. So if you find that doing a full push-up right now is not in the cards, no worries. The first thing that's often very helpful for people is to ensure that their elbows are pointing the correct way. A lot of people will flare their elbows and they think they can't do a push-up when they actually can probably, and that strength is there. So they'll flare their elbows out like this, and of course you can't get any lower. So see right now how my elbows are pointed to the sides? You want to turn and rotate them back so they're facing the back of the room. And then when we come down, we're going to be kind of at a 45-degree angle versus being out like that. So tucking your elbows ever so slightly can improve that range of motion. So look at your hands, make sure your elbows aren't pointed to the sides, rotate them back, and now they're facing the back of the room. Keep them that way, locked in position, come up into a plank, bend your elbows and come down, and then push yourself back up. So give that a try first, just by twisting your elbows, making sure they're facing the back of the room. So if you find that you've had that unlock, great. If not, no worries. I'll talk about how we can regress that. But before we do that, it's important to know that we want a full range of motion by protracting our scapula. So a lot of people, when they do push-ups, their back will be collapsed like this, and they'll just go like this. Nothing wrong with that, but we're trying to not only build strength in our chest, but also our shoulders, because this is going to develop the strength and the stability that is needed to eventually do a handstand. So what I mean by that is when you get into your starting position, instead of collapsing your shoulders like that, push your shoulders away. So this is us protracting our shoulders. So push them away like this. So then we're gonna come down, do a normal push-up, come down, and then when you push back up, don't stop right here, go all the way up and protract your shoulders. Let them go down, push back up, and finish the range at the top like that. So now we know how to do a full range of motion push-up, but say we're not quite there yet. The regression for that is to focus on the negatives on the way down. Okay, so I just want you to focus on getting into an optimal position and coming slowly all the way down until your chest hits the ground. If you can't push yourself back up, that's okay, just relax. Come back up into your starting position and just focus on the negative on the way down. That's it. Just relax, come back up, and focus on that. As you find that that gets better in time, just come down, see if you can push yourself on the way up. If you get here, hey, that's great. If you can't get all the way up, that's okay, just relax and keep going. Eventually that strength, that unlock will get there. Another great way to build up that strength to do that first push-up is to just elevate your hands. So coming down on a bench and you're at a 45-degree angle, and you can come down applying the same techniques, pushing, protracting your shoulders at the top, coming down, keeping those elbows nice and tucked, pushing all the way back up at the top. You can also elevate yourself even higher against a wall if you find even this angle is still too difficult, and then eventually you can come down to this height and then slowly get closer and closer to the ground. Now, as you find push-ups get easier and easier, again, good rule of thumb is 5 to 10 reps where they feel like clean and controlled reps. Remember, we want your reps to look effortless. That's what's going to allow you to continue to progress so you can do that cool stuff that you're looking for. So next progression would be to elevate your hands so you can do some deficit push-ups. Again, full protraction of your shoulders at the top, bringing your chest all the way to the ground, full range of motion. You can also do diamond push-ups, working those triceps a little bit more. So, your index finger and your thumb are touching each other. You're gonna come down, push all the way up, building that strength for your triceps. You can start to do archer push-ups. We'll do that in a more advanced video eventually, but you know, taking the time to build your fundamentals is going to allow you to do more fun, engaging movements like that. All right, moving on to handstand training. This is for anybody who has never done a handstand. The biggest thing you want to focus on is getting comfortable being upside down. So doing pike variations is going to be your best friend, and doing these frequently. So a good starting point for pike variations is to bring your feet up. You're gonna make sure that your shoulders are stacked over your wrists and your toes are up where your legs are straight. So try to bring your legs as close together while keeping your legs straight, and then bringing your ears in between your hands and looking down towards your hands. You want to make sure that you have even distribution in your hands. Think of your hands like a tripod. So up right here, and your thumb. You really want to grip the ground with that, and that's going to build your hand strength so you can eventually do handstands. So pike holds, back into position just like this. Isometric holds, you know, really trying to hold that for as long as you can while keeping good form and technique. Don't let your shoulders collapse in. You know, make sure your shoulders are being pushed away from your ears, and just really holding that position and doing so without shaking, okay? So it takes time, you know, 30 seconds may not seem like a long time, but it's a very challenging amount of time. So as you build up the endurance to that, if you can build up to doing 60 seconds, you're ready to elevate your legs so you're getting closer and closer to that handstand position. So when you feel like the pike holds with your feet on the ground are getting more comfortable, form is on point, you can hold for a good 30, 45, 60 seconds. We're going to elevate both of our feet on a plyo box if you can. A bench should suffice, but you kind of want it close to your hip height. So we're gonna come down and do the same thing with our shoulders, our hand placement, using our hands as a tripod. I'm gonna bring my knees up, bring my hands, make sure they're in position, feet down. I'm gonna push my hips over my shoulders. While tucking my chin back towards the box, we wanna have our wrists stacked over our elbows, over our shoulders, with our hips in alignment. This is the next progression. As you can tell, very challenging. All right. So working up the endurance to that, that's very, very important to build to do those handstands eventually. All right, once you're feeling brave, you've built up a good amount of core strength and you're feeling more stable, the next step is to raise one leg at a time. It doesn't matter which leg, I would just do the leg that you feel most comfortable with. So we're gonna get back into position, bring our knees up, hands in position, make sure they're even and they feel like there's weight distribution. Remember, our hands are our tripod. Extend our knees, and we're gonna bring one leg up. And I would just work up to trying to hold that in good position for as long as possible. So the last thing that I would work on, if you're not quite there for handstands yet, but this is gonna help just create more confidence, is the crow's pose. So with the crow's pose, we're gonna bring our hands back down into our position, make a good tripod, a good strong tripod, and we're going to bring our knees just above our elbows. I still need to keep a good bend in my elbows. As you get stronger and stronger, you want your arms to eventually extend. But hey, we all, myself included, will get there. So this is what it's gonna look like. We're gonna come down and just look forward. Find something to look at on the ground and then elevate your feet. And the reason this is so good is because your hands are going back and forth. Like I'm falling forward, falling back, and my hands are strong enough that they're grabbing me. I'm pulling myself back and forth. When I first did this, I would fall forward all the time because I would fall forward and my hands didn't have the strength nor the reaction time to pull myself back. It's no different than when we walk, right? If we fall forward, oh, our foot catches us, right? We have the stabilizers in our feet to catch us from falling. We want to build that up in our hands. So a lot of people, they'll put a pillow in front of them, like this ground is really tough. Put a pillow in front of you so that way if you do fall forward, it's not gonna hurt. It's gonna be okay. You know, we have to be okay to fall and, you know, stumble a little bit and laugh at ourselves along the way. But find something to look at on the ground, elevate your toes, and just hold as long as you can. And you're gonna build that strength in your hands. And this is getting so much easier. So if you find that you're good with that, but, you know, again, not ready for handstands yet, can do them on some parallel bars. Recently started doing this as well. So again, just holding on to something, bringing your knees on your elbows and coming forward. And then you can come forward into an L-sit, obviously a little bit more advanced, but these are fun, cool things that you can combine together as you build up that strength. So L-sits, I hated training for the longest time. Once you get it, I promise you, it's worth the struggle. So stick to it. You can do fun stuff like that. All right, the last thing here we're gonna work on is for lower body movements, in particular, pistol squats. So learning pistol squats is very difficult, very challenging, and I encourage you to add an additional portion of your warm-up on your days that you're doing pistol squats. So say I'm doing back exercises and then pistol squats, and I do my pull-up stuff first, and then I move on to pistol squats. I will make sure I do this portion of the warm-up right before I do pistol squats in comparison to like at the very beginning of a calisthenics session. So the first thing that I do, because we already warmed up our hips right at the beginning, is I'm just gonna work on my ankles. So I'll grab a bench and push myself forward, trying to keep my heel on the ground and driving my knee forward over my toe. So I'll hold it there, kind of pulse for a second or two, and come back up and do about 3 to 5 reps on each side, and really make sure that my dorsiflexion, my ankle mobility is being prioritized, because you need really good ankle mobility to effectively do pistol squats and eventually the dragon pistol squat, which we're not quite there yet. We will get there though. So today we'll just talk about how you can get your first pistol squat. So this is step number 1, warming up your ankles, really trying to mobilize them so that way they're prepared. After I'm done that, I'll come down into a squat position here. Try to keep my feet forward versus turning them out too much, but grab onto the floor with my feet, and I always train in socks. If you have like barefoot shoes, great, but you don't have as much stability in most shoes. So I'm also trying to build up more foot strength, and I find the shoes were just kind of holding me back from building that foot strength. I can do pistol squats way better without shoes on. So building up that foot strength, that's why I am in socks and not shoes. So I just kind of rock back and forth, while keeping my hips open, trying to drive my knees over my toes, but things are starting to feel good. So once I feel like my ankles are nice and warm, sometimes I'll do a little bit of a check. Yep, they feel pretty good. Like I can just tell that my ankles are tight in the beginning, and then just after that, a couple of minutes, they're feeling pretty good. So step number 1 with pistol squats is to not rush it. You know, a lot of people when they do pistol squats, they'll come down and they will like fumble all over the place and fall down, and like they're just all over the place. We want controlled reps. So you might not be able to do a full pistol squat right away. You need to be okay with that. So what I would do first and foremost is Bulgarian split squats. So finding a bench, if you need to hold on to something, that's okay too. But finding a bench, coming a little further forward, and just making sure that you can do some Bulgarian split squats. The goal is more balance, right? So we're doing all one-legged exercises here. So eventually, we want to make sure that we're not holding on to something, okay? So I would start off with Bulgarian split squats. You can start to hold weight if you want to. It's totally your call how you want to progress with this. As that feels more and more comfortable, we're going to do the first progression for pistol squats. We're going to use the same bench. We're going to do the same range of motion, but versus our leg being back here, our leg's going to be just extended ever so slightly. If you can have it up here, great, but no pressure right away, okay? So just having your leg extended. If you need to hold on to something, again, that's totally okay. So we're going to come down until our butt hits the bench. Don't fully relax on the bench, okay? So I typically, for balance, like to have my hands in front of me. So we're just going to come down until I feel my butt touch the bench. We're going to come back up. Come down until we feel our butt touch the bench, and come back up. Good rule of thumb again, if you can do 3 to 5 reps on each side, then you're ready. Did I say 3 to 5 reps? I meant 5 to 10 reps, sorry. If you can do 5 to 10 reps on each side, you're ready for the next progression. Now, what I would do next is elevate your one foot. It is going to feel a little bit more challenging in comparison to the first one for most people. And that's because we're trying to be a little bit more upright and you don't have something to catch you if you fall. So that's why just elevating yourself and starting here after you've done it on the bench like we just did is really, really important, okay? So we're gonna have our one leg on the side. Make sure we have balance, and this leg can just extend forward, and you're just gonna drive your hip back and touch the ground. I know that that doesn't seem like a lot, but when you know, like psychologically, there's nothing behind you to catch you, it is very difficult to make sure that you're doing it properly. So do, again, 5 to 10 reps on each side. Remember, the initiation here is just driving your hips back and touching the ground and coming back up. Driving your hips back, touching the ground and coming back up. So if you have aerobic steps to make that box even bigger, create a higher platform for yourself. I don't have any right now, so we're gonna skip a few steps, no pun intended, and we're gonna do the same thing at the top of the bench here, okay? So we're all still doing this before we actually are doing the pistol squat, because we're not worried about our leg being extended forward, we're just making sure we feel comfortable with it touching the ground. Okay, so we're on the edge of the bench. We're gonna drive our hips back. We're just gonna come down, touch the ground with our foot, and we're gonna come back up. All right, creating a lot of foot strength from this, a lot of trust in our ability, and getting used to the movement pattern. So many people skip these steps here by elevating themselves, and then their form doesn't look good, and they really struggle with that stability and that strength that is needed. So again, not worried about extending our leg out, just touching the ground and coming back up. Creating that foot strength and that trust in ourselves and developing proper movement pattern for the pistol squat. Once you feel like you are good to go there, let's give pistol squats a try. Now, for pistol squats, you can see how everything's interconnected, right? Because we have our leg elevated. If you're working on your L-sits, you're gonna be strengthening your hip flexors that allow you to do it. So that's why I said don't go too hard on your core training, because you're working it quite a bit, just even with this movement here. Now I would stand next to something and have something to grab onto. Don't hold on to it for dear life, but it's there just for comfort. So what we're gonna do, drive our foot into the ground, make sure that it's nice and stable. Again, we're creating a tripod with our foot. We're gonna elevate our leg, we're gonna drive our hips back, and I'm just gonna hold on to this so you can see. And try to keep your back straight as you can. So we're gonna come down, and we're gonna come back up. Controlled reps is what matters here, okay? Come down and come back up. 5 to 10 on each side. I'm just barely holding on, right? It's just there for comfortability. Coming down and coming back up. Holding on very lightly, down and back up. So once you feel nice and comfortable with assisted pistol squats, holding on to something, we're gonna stand where there's nothing for you to grab, nothing in the way. You're gonna focus on doing controlled reps, unassisted pistol squats. So we're gonna bring our hands up, elevate our leg, slowly come down. And we're gonna come all the way back up. Slowly come down, keep that leg elevated, push yourself and stand all the way back up. 5 to 10 reps on each leg. Doesn't sound like a lot, but whew, it takes a long time to get there, but it is worth it. Now I'll show you guys one more. This is the progression to eventually do the dragon pistol squat. I haven't gotten there yet. It's a goal that has taken a long time, but I'll show you guys what I have been working on so that way you know what else you can do after you've been able to master the pistol squat. So again, you're gonna come up on a bench. You're gonna have your outside foot forward, and then we're gonna step down behind you, okay? So I don't even have a name for it. I'm just calling it a curtsy step up because we're bringing our leg down. Whoa. Bringing our leg down, touching the ground, and coming back up. Very same to what we did initially, but we have the little twist here, if you will, that's really gonna help strengthen this right here. That is important for doing the dragon pistol squat. Obviously, I can't really do this while talking. But if you eventually wanna get the dragon pistol squat and you're doing good with your pistol squats, your regular pistol squats, you might as well add this into your program as well. So at first, I had like a broom here that I had to hold on to, but recently I've been able to do this without holding anything. So if you can't get there yet, make sure you hold on to something, or you do this like where there's a wall in front of you. You can kind of grab yourself against the wall as needed. And the last thing that I would add into your calisthenics lower body day, there's lots, but these are the fundamentals, remember, is the lateral lunges. So you guys saw me do this at the beginning, part of my warm-up, and you'll notice that my range of motion is way better. That's because I'm nice and warm after doing all the pistol squats, but even just building this strength, especially with your hips, your adductors, it's gonna be really helpful. And eventually you can do fun stuff where you come over, bring your leg over, come on out from a pistol squat, come on over, bring your leg over, come on out from a pistol squat. So again, these fun little variations, these arrangements, if you will, keep me motivated with calisthenics training because so much of it does seem like the same thing over and over and over and over again. And what's frustrating is you don't always see that progress day after day, week after week. You know how like if you're strength training, you can keep track of your weight and your strength goes up and you can celebrate that quite regularly. The progress that you celebrate in calisthenics is not as frequent. It's very rare, actually. Therefore, it's very challenging, and I get why not many people take on this type of journey. But like, I'll attach for you my video of me doing my first banded muscle up.
Oh my God, holy shit.
And I was frustrated for months because I saw zero progress. It just wasn't clicking. And this one rep right here, my body just clicked. It made sense. and it was the most rewarding experience ever. I cut off the video, but I started to cry. It was pretty cool. So if you're just getting started, number one, honor the struggle, honor the fundamentals, and keep going, because when you do get that unlock and you get to that next level, there's no greater feeling. And I've done a lot with my fitness career. This has honestly been the most exciting and the most fun I have had. Like, the accomplishments from it are worth it. So stick to it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and please share this video if this was helpful.